Welcome. My name is Jeff, and this is Defending the Take, a program where I defend a movie take that I posted online with someone who saw it and disagreed. I said I thought Obsession was boring because the main character is kind of generic and his actions were repetitive, and Brent called to disagree.
I disagree with your video about saying how kind of Bear from Obsession was a boring character in your opinion because he's kind of like, like passive in his own life and like doesn't take like that initiative or action, or like when tries to gets immediately shot down. I personally find that like a compelling part of his character for a couple reasons. Kind of one, mirroring kind of at the end how it shows that because he's always been passive even before using the One Wish Willow and after with Nikki, him, being under that same wish as possessed Nikki kind of shows that full transformation into it, as well as that initiative kind of being like a kind of a cautionary tale of how kind of being passive in your own life kind of leads to the people around you can, it can like seriously hurt not only your life, but the people around you just because of those decisions. It was like his decisions of being passive, him not doing things, even something as simple as just like not, like actually locking up his medication that killed his cat, and it can show it just from like that environment of how that little like actual care and kind of letting things kind of pass by kind of causing all this.
Okay. So I would say my first like thing with Bear is that obviously he's this very like, he's someone who lacks a lot of self-confidence. He has like, probably not the most socially outgoing, but he has his like very small, tight group of friends. And he's relatable in that way because I think that's what kind of like a lot of people can connect with, is that they've all seen somebody like a friend who's like really into somebody, but they just don't have the courage to talk to them. But my issue is like, one, he doesn't go that much deeper than that with him. Like, yes, he's careless with his like somehow his grandmother's pills are left out and the cat gets to them. But there's a lot of vagueness too because we don't know why those pills are out. It says they're like painkillers, but like there's nothing else in the movie to suggest that he was, using those painkillers, that he like, and if he's not using those painkillers, like, then is the cap not secured on it because he didn't secure it on there, or like, what like is that just the way it was left? So it's like we kind of, would you say like there's not like a lot of evidence to show that he's like a very specific brand of messed up at the beginning.
That's fair. I guess that kind of implication would be a little bit off, especially I think the Curry Barker, I think he did say that like Bear was just kind of like taking over like one of his family members' house. I still do believe though, as like it, while it could be as that normally is, I don't think for just like how we've seen Bear kind of like as it throughout the movie, I like to kind of infer that was him, especially because most other people are very like on top of or just knowing like to like, like actually like firmly put it on.
Oh, totally. And I mean, the thing is, it's like, yes, it's negligent, but we kind of aren't given the evidence to know like just how negligent it is. And then so like then that kind of like launches us into making the wish and his first night with Nikki, and like the first thing we see, like the first big like thing we see him kind of like not really give enough attention is her taking the dead cat out of the trash and like laying it on the ground and making this like shrine to this dead animal in his kitchen, which I think like you'd have to agree that is absolutely ridiculous behavior and like would deserve a lot of scrutiny, right?
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So like, and his reaction to that is very like really small. Like it's very much just like, Nikki, you can't do that. Like
Yeah.
that's a dead cat. Like what? Come on. So and that's the thing is like that like personally like I would like to see like a bigger reaction to something so big, and that kind of like sets this precedent of like the entire movie kind of like repeats that chain where Nikki does something absolutely outrageous, and like yes, his reactions in the moment become like more scared, more like frustrated, but like it ultimately ends with him always dismissing it, telling other people that it's not a problem, and then like showing back up to the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a certain there becomes a certain like boredom like in my position, just because everything that like I know that everything that she does is going to end the same way. It's always going to end with him just disregarding it and walking back into that apartment, no matter how like we know Bear is messed up like very early on. Like I think in my opinion, once she has the outburst at the restaurant and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about the fact that he is dealing with like a possessed entity and it is not Nikki, and then he just decides he's down to smash regardless. Like he can't really get worse than that. You can like as a person, he can't get more sinister than not caring that like his friend has essentially like lost complete agency and has ceased to exist.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I think that's fair for like why that like perceived like boredom. I think that's like, yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I just think for me, while I think like it can, I think just like for me at least, it got like progressively like more worse until like obviously like the climax of the whole movie with him killing Sarah, killing, I think his name's Ian, and like all of that. I think like that gets to the extreme because I think while it does start off like personally crazy, like cooking someone's cat and making them, or at least just like making it into like a lunch with just like a little inside like joke thing they had like the day before. I think just like with everything, I think with that, I think it gets just more and more. I think just like the amount of like control that like this possessed Nikki has gets like more and more tight like as the movie goes on. And I think like that's kind of what kept me at least engaged. Because like with the other things, it still felt like Bear had at least somewhat of like what he could do. But like once you get to, for example, the party where it's literally he like to like completely do like she's just like completely freaking out at the fact that he's going alone to a party with her friends, or just like going with Sarah. I think like to that level, that's kind of what kept me like on edge, or like kept it like more eerie to me, was just that that more grasp of him having less and less and less control, even with the amount that he even had at the beginning. It still kind of feels like a progressive amount of that to me.
Yeah, I mean to me he never had control. Like the very first night, he like she's like she's acting like a lunatic. She's in the corner,
Yeah.
she's screaming, she's running around. He can't even leave his bed because he's afraid of what she might do. And then like the door thing is just like, in my mind, like no real person is going back into that apartment once they see that door like that. So like, and another thing that like made it kind of like sluggish for me is that there really isn't any like rhyme or reason behind what's dictating Nikki's progression. Like we don't know, like, because if the whole logic is that Nikki wants as much of Bear as she could possibly have, like all of her actions are like doing the opposite of that, and they don't even seem to be tied to like any triggers. There's no like things that we can tell are predicating these different reactions and escalations from Nikki. It's just kind of escalating, you know, for the sake of escalation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of firstly saw it like that's true. I think I saw like a little bit more of like Bear's like own like internal interest to it, of how yes at the beginning it was, you know, I think he still, while it was still crazy, it was true like through that montage and through that, even that was like after like all this like crazy stuff, it's still like he still feels like content, happy, and like still like going there. And I think especially when you get to stuff again at the party where he intentionally does something to, you know, this reaction kind of out of Nikki, him knowing at this point, because I think absolutely he would know even at this point of like she's not gonna like this. I think him doing that and then kind of causes that immediate like crazy switch to happen.
I mean, she's already cooked his cat and fed it to him. Like,
yeah.
What are you expecting from bringing her to a party? Like,
No, exactly.
how can you possibly expect anything good to come from that?
No, yeah, and then no, I agree, and then like especially with Sarah, it's like that was meant to see a moment of like those feelings kind of filter into someone else, and that kind of like causes again that snap to like murder her, and
but the thing is, it's like everyone in that room should be abundantly clear to every single person in that room that Nikki is a danger to herself and anyone else around her. She has just had like a psychotic break to where she looked like she didn't know where she was, what was going on, immediate panic, and then like really, really bad self-harm. And then to watch her switch again and start smiling after doing that to herself. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're going, like, first I think it's kind of, if you consider yourself somebody that cares about her or somebody that's like really close to her, has a genuine like interest in her welfare, I think you're irredeemable if you're just like telling Bear to get her out of here on his own and then not looking into the situation any further than that and just assuming that he's gotten it taken care of, because he's been around this person intimately for like the last like couple weeks, and this is where she's at, so I don't think she's in good hands up to that point, right?
Yeah, that was one of my biggest problems, was like the fact of how Sarah got into that situation. It was like that was like the same the same night you saw all of this happen. You see how like much that he like even in like the same like room where it's like kissing someone else in a dumb game gets to this complete overreaction. You think going alone with Bear and doing all these things is going to be like a smart idea? Like you don't think you don't see like a problem with it?
You know, like to me, it's like he might as well have brought Pennywise to that party, you know, and like, you know, to see that reaction and then to be like texting Pennywise's boyfriend that night, like, hey, you need to come meet me so I can try to have an intimate moment with you after your significant other showed very clear intention that harm is going to come to anyone trying to get in between her and Bear. So like that's just like, you know, it comes to this point where I can't really like suss out what like what rational reactions and like rational states of mind are for any of the characters, because consistently I'd say the most consistent thing about the entire movie is people disregarding other people's suffering, like right from the person working at that gem store who's just like answering all these calls like, yeah, these people are like saying it ruined their life or they're dead now, or, you know, any of these things, and they don't care. And then Bear sees all these crazy things from Nikki. He doesn't care. Like, nobody at that party really seems to care when they see what happened to Nikki. And then they reinsert themselves back into Bear's like life and what happens.
No, yeah. I think for those like kind of like larger points, I think it kind of faltered a little bit, because I think like, for example, like the small ones at the beginning with like Ian just telling her to call her Freaky Nikki, knowing like Ian would know she doesn't like that, and not even telling the guy that's, trying to ask Nikki out that you've been on and off with her for like months. I think in those moments of like disregard for someone's like feelings, or like just like in general, kind of like those, I think the movie does really good. But I think for like the over the top ones, any common person would want to be either completely away from that, or just be like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, and like, I would say like the one moment that, because like in my opinion, like I do not think like it's that deep of a movie in terms of like the amount of thought that even like Curry Barker put into the implications of every single action of every single character. I think he made a kind of, I think because you gotta put yourself in the perspective of like, this is just a guy trying to like get his first movie made, and it's like a relatively like short budget. You're trying to throw all these things together, get these actors. Like, you don't have the like advantages that big productions have, where you can kind of like look at the dailies and maybe like change some things up, and like it's like you're shooting this thing, and what you get is what you get, and it's like a sprint to the finish. So I think that like, at the end of the day, he's making like kind of like your standard monkey paw, like wish goes awry, and like just had some fun with all these like crazy, ridiculous elements. But he's like, he's not trying to make this feel like any type of reality where he's like tying up loose ends and things like that. It's like everybody kind of has laser focused on like, oh, the most like despicable thing in the whole movie, the disturbing thing is like when Nikki's like pleading to Bear, and he just kind of walks away. But like when you think about that moment like rationally, it's like this guy literally thinks there's only two options: kill her or kill himself. So like, who in that moment is doing one of those two things?
Yeah. No, yeah.
It's kind of, like that's just kind of this moment where he's like, yeah, I got nothing for you right now. It like if the only thing he could have done was like just not go to meet Sarah, like just get in your car and drive and keep on driving, like until you can go back to that store and try to get another stick. Like that's the best thing he could have done, but Sarah demanded his presence, and that's why I can't put the blame on Bear for Sarah trying to steal this girl's man that night.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with that. No, I agree with that. And so yeah, I feel like I think you're right. Just like, especially with like, he's not trying to like tie a lot of loose ends with a lot of it, especially the characters, just because it's supposed to be like this, again, monkey's paw horror movie about just a wish going wrong because of someone's like reason for doing it, or like the implications of it, and just the characters are kind of working around kind of the plot to kind of get that, suspense or like scare of what is Nikki going to do in this situation with this person. And because like that's how I feel towards like Ian, when he like wished for $1 billion. Bear told you beforehand, do not come to my house, do not. And he comes anyways and says like, Bear, I want it, then just immediately dies. I think it was to bring that suspense of Nikki could do anything, more than like, oh, what would a person rationally do in this situation?
Yeah. So that's the thing. I think like, a lot of the moments that you see in this movie, they're kind of like, they're there for the fun of it from like a movie standpoint. Like, they're just like exciting things that are thrown together. Because a lot of like the I would say like so many of the most like iconic moments from this movie are actually just kind of like lifted from other movies. Like her thing at the restaurant, that's right from Get Out. Like her hitting herself in the face that very much reminded me of Hereditary. Like it's a movie that felt like an amalgamation of a bunch of different movies, and like it is carried by great performances, mainly from Inde, but also from, I'm forgetting the actor that played Bear. Like I think he did well with the script of the character he was given. I just think that like writing wise, it's not much more than like a series of wild and crazy horror events that culminates in like everyone dying.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I feel that. I think there is some subtext that you can go, especially on things just like autonomy and all that. But I think when you try to go deeper and deeper into it, because of how the characters are written to not be these ultra complex, very rational, it kind of gets murky when you're trying to add other things to it. And I think it's supposed to be again just a monkey's paw movie, but also just a movie that does have other implications of it with the One Wish Willow and how it is with between Nikki and Bear. I think that's the main dynamic, and I think the other characters don't have enough maybe just common sense to make it feel.
They're kind of just they don't really have a lot of change to them. They don't really have a lot of depth to them. They're kind of these singularly focused characters. Ian is just a chud who is low key annoyed by what anything that Bear is doing. Yeah. And Sarah is this singular force that just wants Bear no matter what. And she's just gonna keep wanting Bear. And I think, and the thing is and this is why I don't typically like horror movies, or even things that deal with magic where the magic isn't super grounded, because then you can, since we don't really know how this wish works, you can't even, it gets to a point where you can say that Bear isn't even that much to blame, because the wish may have had an effect on Bear as well. This wish may have actually made him see Nikki in a skewed reality, or that because of this wish Nikki has some sort of hold on him, since it's a manifestation of himself that is not something he ever would have encountered in real life. Therefore his actions are not reflective of anything that he might have done in real life under normal circumstances.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, especially with, the One Wish Willow, yeah. No, I think I agree with, the magic, kind of, because the magic system in One Wish Willow is kind of, a lot more ambiguous with, how it works, especially with, the thing of at the kind of beginning of the movie.
Yeah, there's just, there's not a lot of detail to, the chain of events and why these things are happening and what the cause and effect are. And and that's the thing, that's why these kind of aren't my movies. And a lot of people really enjoy adding all these other layers onto things, especially with you take something like a Mulholland Drive, or any of those David Lynch movies where I can't, I just cannot watch something where I don't know what's happening or why it's happening. But that doesn't mean that they're not good movies, and it doesn't mean that it's not fulfilling to, take these things that have happened and draw meaning out of them. It's just a personal thing.
That's fair. No, yeah, I see your point. With I think when things aren't especially with the magic system. Again, just going back to that, because it's not fully explained, and with especially the Reddit posts of people being this doesn't work, this does, and the shop owner, when he goes back to try to buy another one, it's I already used mine works, and he just seems to be fine with it. It just kind of brings up a lot more implications of how does this actually work.
Yeah, I mean, these things, they're there to be fun. They're there to add to the entertainment factor. They're not necessarily there to have these like serious implications on the moral conclusions of the story or the characters. So that's why you kind of take it for what it is. But it's like it's everyone's movie to enjoy the way they want to enjoy it. But that's why I kind of I'm a person who and it just makes it hard for me because it's the same thing with Marvel movies, or it's the same thing with even a Project Hail Mary. It's they're so I can kind of tell when things are done for the sake of making the movie entertaining over the actual grounded implications of how they're going to affect the story, and so you can draw and deduce what why people are acting the way that they are, or what a specific action is going to do to because then what the more grounded things are, the more important every action becomes, because that the movie is going to stay true to the actual implications of what that action is. Whereas with Nikki hitting herself in the face, their reactions to that are a lot more closely tied to let's say she had been holding a beer bottle and she crushed it with her hand and cut her hand open, and everyone's dude, what is she doing? Dude, get because that's not a very serious thing. It's just she's being really weird, and I think she just wants attention, and get her out of here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So for me, I really like if it's horror, I think Midsommar is the one that kind of I watched that and I was okay, that's genuinely disturbing to me.
Yeah, no, Midsommar was horrifying for me.
Yeah, Midsommar's crazy because that's real life. It's a movie about cults, and people fall into cults every single day. And yes, it's a heightened version of reality, but you're never really wondering why somebody did what they did, or how what the importance of each action is and what it says about each person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's kind of I think that, and for me, Get Out is
Get Out.
That's just because I love Get Out, especially because of how Chris and other people were. Everything was explained, I think, very well, and it was very a simple thing to understand. And even things where it does kind of a show don't tell at the beginning, where you can kind of pick the pieces together, and then it gives that to you, as well as the people having common sense. My favorite scene of just that fight or flight was when Chris is trying to get the door, he keeps knocking, he keeps not kicking it back, and then he stabs him, so he's able to get away. It's that's if that was more what in Obsession with Bear or any of the other characters, it could have. I think you could bring the point of we can actually dissect how this can affect them, or how much of a friend, or how much do they really care about Nikki are they? But because it's more kind of devices to kind of show that insanity, it doesn't do it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's just it's just you can't argue with the results of Obsession. I can't say Obsession should have done anything differently, because this movie is just so absurdly successful, and so many people really like it. So it's I'm not gonna sit here and say oh yeah, no, that was wrong, it should have done this. I can just say that it would have been more fun for me. I always have more fun because I love seeing movies try to create their own string of logic, and seeing if they can actually figure out a puzzle, to make everything kind of rationalized and grounded and keep the story consistent, because it involves creativity, but creativity within confines that makes it more clever. So it's I would have loved even just with the cat thing, if he had asked Ian about said dude, she took my cat out of the bag and out of my trash and put it on the ground. If Ian was just she used to be goth. Remember that? She was like goth for like 3 years. And he's like, oh my God, she was goth, wasn't she? You think she does like witchcraft? It's like, he's like, maybe like that, like, and I'm sure like a lot of people will be like, oh, well, that would have just like made it silly. But like, to me, like it's already silly to me. So like, I love like leaning into that and kind of like just tying up all those like little loose ends as best as you can. So that you kind of like feel like all these actions have like implications that are going to be honored by the rest of the story.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. No, that's fair.
All right.
I think, yeah.
Oh.
No, yeah, because I think that's why I liked Obsession so much, was just because of, I was kind of like thinking it not as like so much like implications, but just like kind of seeing the different ways of like how Nikki was going and how all this, like I'm able to enjoy that as that, but also you could like look at it and be like, yeah, that was kind of dumb, and I don't know why they did that, but like, you know, I think it's still like overall like that's how it is, versus like something like Get Out, where I think when you get rid of those aspects of it, it makes it a worse experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that like Get Out like is like the statements that come from Get Out are way more kind of like purposely put there. Like they are like Get Out it like has very definitive statements, and I don't, like, you know, you could say more that they're not there by mistake. Like these are like, he's saying that he has very concrete views from the things that you see in Get Out, whereas like the looser you are with the rules and the looser you are with like the reality that they're existing in, you know, it's harder to like be absolutely firm that like, oh no, this is what he was trying to say, you know, in the end. But it's still, you know, like I think like there are good things about Obsession. Like obviously the acting, like the performances were really good. I think like the score was really good. I like it, definitely like, you know, set a good tone for kind of like what, you know, like what the story was and kind of like how unnerving it was. But like, you know, at the end of the day, it's just I'm just like that. Like I love watching things that like really commit to the logic of the world and the story, and like can manage to do that while and also be creative at the same time.
Fair.
Hey, I love when people can agree. I love when people can like watch movies and be like, I like this and you like that, and we're both happy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we're both happy. It's like I see your point, so I think you could see like why like someone like me could like those things that you might not enjoy. It's like, yeah, finding common ground. That's how you always
100%.
love to have. That's why it's great to find common ground of just like conversation, even if at the end we might not agree. It's like we did find something that we could both like just like agree with.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, like it's like I don't want everybody to like the same movies. Like I don't want only one type of movie to exist. I want like lots of different movies to exist, and that's kind of like where my biggest frustration comes from, because I think it, like you'd agree, it's obvious that like indie movies, like original movies, they're dominated by horror. Like horror, like everything is like horror Marvel biopics. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And so like I don't particularly like any of those movies. Like I miss like, you know, the more grounded like crime, thriller, suspense, like action, comedy, you know, even romantic comedy, like all the things that are gone now. So that's why I'm always complaining.
That's fair. I hate biopics also. I genuinely hate biopics.
I have seen good biopics. They have made good biopics. It's just that like now there's so much like because there are always these big people, and you know, it's just like it has to be so commercial, and they're so focused on pleasing everybody and sanitizing it so much that like you can't like tell a really like interesting or provocative story. Like, you know, like Ray, the only reason Ray is any good is because it's an independent movie. And and some rich guy just kind of like, same thing with Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, the only reason that movie could be what it was because like, random rich guy just like funded the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's unfortunate how with a lot of those smaller movies, how it kind of has to gravitate towards those, because yeah, it's just really unfortunate, especially with like, you could throw money at it to like make it like something where the audience would like it, like especially like Cory Barker saying like he could have like gotten like more money to like just make it where Bear was the hero in the end. And it's like, I think that's just like a problem of just like everything where it's like trying to appeal to the audience and like trying to appeal to like the most amount, where then it just turns into like it's the same movie every time. There's no like cool new rotations. And especially even with like genres, like I think if more like indie or just like movies weren't just gravitated towards like horror or like things like maybe just like something like something crazy like sci-fi or just like again rom-coms. I love rom-coms, but I just feel like there aren't so many being made that are like either this complete big thing or just like shown in general, and it's like it's just unfortunate.
Well, they're being made. They're just awful. They're just
That's true. That's also true. That's also true.
So bad. Like the J-Lo one that I just watched. I mean, like,
oh yeah.
Any comedy, any romantic comedy, they're always just being like made by these streamers, just because they're risky. I mean that's the thing about like the reason that comedy is so scarce is the reason that horror is so plentiful. Is that like with comedy you cannot just be random. Like comedy only work. Like comedy has to be smart. Comedy has to be clever. It like comedy has to be somewhat grounded. It can't just be a bunch of like crazy cinematic things. And it's really hard to gauge like or even find the right group of like who's gonna find this funny, how many people are gonna find this funny, how could we like determine how much money we're gonna make with like whatever budget we assign to this, which I get. It's more so about just like it's really hard for movies to find the people that are going to like them, and that's part of why I try to be as honest as possible so that like people go and follow me and know that if they like what I say I like, that like I'm going to be straightforward and I'm just going to say exactly what I like and what I don't like and not like sugarcoat it.
That's fair. No, yeah, I like those where it's just like you're not sugarcoating it, because like that's how I felt towards Project Hail Mary. It's like I just like there was like something that was always like irking me, and I didn't know that until like you brought your video of how they all just felt very static with like no emotion. I'm like, that was my problem with it.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is that it positions itself as like a sci-fi movie, but yet like every single decision that's made in that movie is for the sake of making Ryan Gosling cuter or making the story cuter. Like that movie is like a cute maxer, and that it's just like it's just trying to tell the cutest story. Like we've got Ryan Gosling, let's put him in a little sweater, let's give him some glasses, let's have him make some silly noises, let's give him a best friend who's a rock who just like wants to sleep on him like a dog.
Yeah. No, yeah. And like, if people love it, like, and I love that, but it's like you can also like acknowledge, like, yeah, it's fair for people like to not enjoy that type of thing. It's like, again, it's just good with like kind of like bridging things. It's just bridging.
But what's so funny though is like the vitriol that I got saying that I didn't like that movie or like things I didn't like about that movie. It's like you take this like sweet innocent story, but like, oh my God, if you saw some of the like the messages that I got about not liking Project Hail Mary, it's like these people wanted blood. They were so pissed about me not liking Project Hail Mary.
No, yeah. I don't know. I hate seeing those comments where it's just like, does this guy like any movies? It's just like, that's just such like a boring point of view to go with. Because like, even if you disagree, you don't want to bring up any points. You just want to just like be like, oh yeah, he's just, Mr. just anti-fun over here.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it is what it is. It's the internet. You gotta,
sure.
you gotta know that like, if you say something people don't want to hear, they're gonna let you know they don't like hearing it.
Fair enough.
Well, it was good talking to you. I'm glad we could get to a deeper level of understanding. But yeah, thanks so much. Any other questions?
Oh, no. Just thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, have a good night.
You too. See ya.